All right. So, as people are coming in here. Pretty exciting. Uh, we had over 300 people, Peter, sign up for this webinar. How does that make you
That's
feel?
unbelievable. Yeah, that's 100 more than we've ever had RSVP or
Yeah.
register for any webinar in the past.
Yeah, it is definitely a lot. Very exciting. Puts a little pressure on us, make sure that we provide
Yeah, I
value.
gotta say, I have to confess, I'm feeling a little bit more pressure than I normally do for this.
Yeah, we'll have to tell Amy, like, hey, don't tell us the head count. Just tell us if we need to keep promoting more.
Yeah, 5 or 6 people signed up.
Yeah. Yeah, you got five. All right, that's cool. Because it's not like we see their windows anyways.
Yeah.
All right, so season two is here and pretty exciting. Get to kick it off with one of my favorite topics, Zapier. But what do we have to look forward to in season two?
Oh man, so Wolf, you and I sat down probably about a month ago and we laid out the schedule for this year for this series, as well as we spent a good while going through and selecting topics. And I am really excited about the topics that we selected for this year. And we tried to pick, we were able to see the view counts and the registrations last year for the different topics that we picked. And so we got a sense of what people are into and what gets actually people to show up and what are they getting value out of. And so yeah, we've got one a month for almost the rest of the year, and we got some really good stuff. We kind of synced it up with some of the um, seasonal events and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's going to be good.
Yeah, no, I agree. Quite honestly, season one really wasn't season one. It was like, hey, can you just do a webinar? All right, let's do it. And then it just became a season, and now here we are, season two, and it's really exciting to have this because I think for us, it's an opportunity to really share like what's working, what do we
Yeah,
do in our companies, as operators ourselves. We're still in it. We haven't sold, we haven't done something different. Nothing against those that have, but we literally still are. Like, I'm sitting at my desk, I can see papers and items I have to get done. I know
I thought
you're
you were
not
going to
at your
say that
desk
you could see
currently,
like
but
leases on your desk, and I was about to give you a really hard time.
yeah, yeah. So I think that really brings a lot to the conversation. So let's just elephant in the room. Peter, why are you not wearing a dress shirt right now and have a bunk bed? I think we need to discuss that.
Yeah, so I am tuning in from Rangeley, Maine. I'm here on a family ski vacation. So we've been skiing Saddleback, Maine, which is a great little mountain. If anyone's ever been there, you'll know it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. And so the internet's a little spotty. I've got a makeshift table made out of a bedside table. Didn't bring my dress clothes out here to the middle of nowhere. So yeah, I'm not in my normal environment, not in my normal outfit. So please excuse the sort of informal nature of my representation here.
Yeah, it's almost like you're on a crane break or something.
Yep, that's right.
Yep. All right. So today's topic: three zaps in 30 minutes. This is what do we call it? A sequel, a redo, a twin sister?
Yep.
Yeah, so we did this in season one, and the reason we're doing it again is it was very well received. It was one of the most highly attended sessions. It got a lot of feedback. People still talk about it, and the views of the episode after the fact are still getting it. So we decided why not do another three zaps. So we're going to go over those zaps today, and if you are like, what the heck is a zap? It's not a new cartoon. It's what they call the outputs when you use a service called Zapier. And we are going to speak to you today. And if you're like, I already do Zaps, Wolf. Matter of fact, I actually think I'm smarter than you and have better Zaps. There's a good possibility you may be, but I have something for you today too. And we sprinkled in some AI. So at the end of the day, those that watch are going to get some practical uses for Zapier, not just like some cool stuff you can brag about, but something that can actually help you. And even though that this webinar is brought to you by the great folks at LeadSimple, this is not LeadSimple focused. So if you're not a LeadSimple user and somehow came across this webinar, you are actually going to leave with some great useful things today too. So that's what we have planned. So let's go ahead and start sharing the screen here. All right, so in Zapier, we can do lots of great and special things, but the first thing that you really need to do is figure out how are you going to organize all your zaps. I know we promised 3 zaps in 30 minutes, but I stress this a lot because as you get used to using Zapier and you like it, you're going to start having lots of them. You need to organize them. So use folders. That's the way we do it. You'll start to
Yeah, we
see
have
some of them. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, we're pretty big on the folders too. We've got folders for leases, property management agreements, Slack. Like it's we got one for LeadSimple. It's very handy because faster than you think you're gonna have more zaps than you can keep track of, and it's actually kind of frustrating when you know a change you need to make to a zap and you're having trouble locating that specific zap.
Yep. Hence all the tabs in my window. I wanted to queue up all my zaps that we're going to go through today. So I wasn't like, oh, I know it's here. Where is it? So come up with folders. And if you have a workflow solution, for me, we use LeadSimple. Peter does as well. The zaps that go with those individual workflows are using the same naming convention as the processes that we have. So right here in our tenants folder, our zaps that go to our different tenant processes, and they all T00, T01, etc. So I know exactly which zap goes to which process. So if I have to troubleshoot, make better, whatever I need to do, it's a lot easier to find things. So that's just a quick bonus is come up with naming conventions and come up with folders to help organize your zaps. That will save you a lot of time. And if you're just getting started, just do it now, even though you may only have one zap, it will pay dividends down the road. But the first zap that I want to talk about is actually in our 001, which is when we are onboarding a new owner. Everybody's excited, sign the management agreement. We're like, all right, new owner. We don't have to eat top ramen anymore. We can go out to Burger King. The issue is that we just started because Peter forced me. He said, Wolf, we can't work together unless you start doing MPS. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. I signed up for Retently, and that's a service that you can go ahead and do MPS surveys to whomever you would like. Super easy. I love it. I'm like addicted now. But I was like, I don't want to have to go in here every time we get a new owner. One, I'm going to have to remember to do it, and then I have to log in. I then have to go find the spot. I have to type in their name, their email address, all that. Like, that is totally lame. It's going to take like 5 minutes. I don't want to do it. Light bulbs. I wonder if Retently has a Zapier integration, and it does. So what we've done here is when we create our folders for our owners, when we onboard, I just added another step in this process or in this app to add the owner to a Retently system. So now I don't have to worry about it. It's done.
Yes, well, I certainly would have onboarded with an NPS vendor that didn't have a Zapier integration, Wolf.
Well, I already knew that I had a Zapier integration, but yes, you did bring up one of my rules is don't sign up with software unless it has a Zapier integration. That is,
Yep.
forgot to mention that. That was in season 1. So let's just look at this quickly. And basically, the trigger is when a lead changes a stage in LeadSimple, we're going to do these steps. But this is what I want to share right here is the use of filters. If you can, we're going to talk about some core concepts today. One is filters. The other is using the scheduler. Those are two built-in, I guess, services of Zapier. They have quite a few of them that you're going to use again and again and again. Almost every service you use inside of Zapier, or I should say every software you connect inside of Zapier, the triggers are somewhat limiting, right? And so a filter will allow you to drill down. So right here, my goal is I want to create a folder for the owner. I want to update their contact. I want to add them to a specific group inside of Retently. Well, I don't want to do that for every new lead, only specific leads. And so that's where filters come in. So let's go ahead and edit this thing so we can have more detail. And what I want to showcase here is using conditions. And you can have multiple conditions, and you can use and or as your in the logic. So right here, this particular one, I'm going to use the stage name. Whatever service you use, you're going to have different options. But right here, you'll see that because this is in step 2, it's only allowing me to see the items in the trigger. Your filter doesn't always have to be right after the trigger. You can have a filter in lots of different places, but in most cases, the filter should be after your first step because you're not wanting to apply this set of actions to every time certain things come
Yeah,
in.
let me highlight this. So if you do use LeadSimple, or probably if you use any type of workflow product, this is going to be almost like the foundation or the base layer of just about anything you're going to do in Zapier. The software is going to have a trigger, something like lead changes stage or task checked or something like that. And then that's going to be firing boom boom like all day every day as everyone's changing stages and checking tasks off. But for any specific Zap that you're building, you're only interested in a very narrow specific scenario. And so you use that filter, which in this case is stage name. If the stage name is, you know, lease signed or whatever the stage name is, working PM, then and only then will this Zap fire. I got two questions for you on this, Wolf, that I actually
Mhm.
want to know myself. One is, if a Zap fires like this, the trigger fires, but then it's stopped by the filter, does that count against your usage in Zapier? That's my first question. And the second question is, if I change the name of the stage in LeadSimple, do I then have to go in and mess around in Zapier, or does that automatically fix itself?
Those are really good questions. So, the way, for those that aren't familiar with Zapier, the way Zapier bills, a couple different things, but basically comes down to the number of tasks that it can do. So, in this particular Zap, we have one task, two tasks, three tasks. Now, if I were to build a loop, each time the loop runs, it'd be 3 times 2 times, just multiply out. So if the trigger is not executed, you do not get billed for that. Now, it's been a while since I've looked at the pricing plans. I don't know if they've limit how many zaps you can have per plan. I definitely would just sign up for whatever the first plan that allows you unlimited zaps. Sign up for that one, but you can adjust how many tasks you want to be billed for, and that's what's going to drive your price. So if the trigger goes, but the filter filters it out, you are not billed. Now, the
Okay.
filter and some of those Zapier built-ins are free, what they call free. So this isn't going to count as a task, or scheduler is not going to count as a task. The name of this, changing the name of the stage, it is best practice to draw out your zaps. I have one kind of starting here on paper as best as possible, because once you build it and you make changes to, let's say, like you change the field and job form or you change a stage name, some, depending on the software, sometimes it doesn't matter, sometimes it does. But if you can reduce the amount of changes you have to make ahead of time, life is just that much easier. But in general, yes, what you'll want to do is just open up your Zap, click edit, and what you're looking for is, one, making sure you have green checks on every step, but just kind of, I call it kind of a refresh, just run through. And so, like right here, we'll click on here, we'll say continue. Yep, that's right. Let's find the sample. Okay, great, whatever. And then just kind of go through and make sure everything is still working. In general, what you see here, working dash PM, is human. That's what that. The computer usually will have some really long, crazy ID associated. So if we're scrolling here, there's another ID. Let's see. There's all these IDs, which are the actual name of that field. That
Okay.
usually doesn't change when you change the name, but it's just good practice just to run through it and make sure it's still working.
Okay, so what's the answer to my question?
Depends on the software that you made the change in. LeadSimple specifically, usually you do need to. My experience has been if you change the name of the stage, yes, run through and update it
Okay.
inside of LeadSimple or inside of Zapier.
Okay, so I've been paranoid about changing stage names ever since we started using Zapier, and it sounds like my paranoia was well placed. So I will
Yeah.
continue to be paranoid about changing stage names.
Right. Because what happens is you'll see here, stage name text exactly matches. It's not going to look at the ID. It's going to look at the human language version of whatever that is. And so right here, it's looking for exactly matches working dash space, capital P, capital M. If I remove that space, it breaks it. So it's got to be the exact same as what you have inside of your lead simple.
Okay, great.
Yeah. All right. So now I could add a and or an or. The other thing that you can do is you don't necessarily have to use the name. You can use the ID. This is the reason why I'm showing it this way is this is easier. If you're just getting started and Zapier's new and all that, it's much easier to think of things as how you actually see them in your computer. In most of your everything you do on the computer comes to unique IDs, right? That's how it this stuff works, right? Who knows what the ID is, right? Or this field's ID or this table's ID. I don't know what it is. It's not listed. So I see, oh, this stage, when I look at my funnel, is called working dash PM. Okay, that's easier to do that. If you use the IDs, the benefit to that is it's unique. So you don't have to worry about doing, you still have to do the filters, but you don't have to worry about duplicates or what if I have two stages and different pipelines named the same. You don't have to worry about that if you use the actual ID. But knowing the ID, Lead Simple makes it easy to get it. Not every software does. So there are some benefits to using the ID, but if you're just getting started out, just use the name as you see it on your end in your filter, and it will make life a lot easier for you. So that's the importance of a filter. It really helps you because obviously I don't want to do these steps every time any lead. I mean, could you imagine me adding every time a rental application runs through our lead simple? Every prospective tenant applicant is now going to be added to my Retently. Definitely drop my MPS, that's for sure. But I don't want to do that. All right, so that is the filter, but let's get down here to Retently. It's real easy. Obviously, you need to have an account, but I'm just doing create or update customer. I've already linked my Retently account. I'm telling it basically, here's my new customer. You can see the 4 in the lead simple sign. That's referencing step 4 right here. So if I click inside a box, I can say, yes, the customer is this person right here, and then go down to the next field, and I'm just mapping fields. I'm telling Retently your email field equals this field in Lead Simple, and I just do that for as many as possible. I've also tagging it as housing provider because I've set up certain tags inside of Retently so that it can group people together. So I don't I have like an overall score, and then I have individual scores based on if you're a tenant, housing provider, or vendor. For those that aren't from California, housing provider is what you call a landlord. And then I have a custom field that I am putting, you can see it, going to an ID. This is the contact ID inside of Lead Simple. Why did I do that? I don't know. And you're like, what? That doesn't make sense. I just know, trying to future proof things, that the contact ID is the unique ID for this particular person. So I'm just going to save it every time I do Zaps now. I try to save the IDs in custom fields or different places, UTMs, whatever, because I may need it in the future to do something else. And it's much easier to build it for what I may want down the road than what I currently need now. So that's kind of
Yeah,
a tip.
let me give a couple of thoughts on that. One is, once you get a Zap, once you get this data into Retently, Retently has its own automations and campaigns that it's going to run to survey your housing providers and your residents, etc. So this isn't the end of the story. This is actually just the start of the Retently campaign, but this is saving you a bunch of time from manually entering names and emails into Retently. One suggestion, I love your idea of mapping the contacted ID in there, even though you may not need it. One idea that came to mind for me on how you could use that is if you get a low score, like let's say you have an owner and they rate you a 0 on or a 1 on a 1 through 10 scale, you could then have a Zap monitoring that. And if that happened, you could have it kick off a process in LeadSimple to address an unhappy customer, and you could use that contact ID to look up the exact property owner in your LeadSimple account so that you're not relying on kind of a fuzzy name that may not always work or people change their names or what have you. So that's an example of how you could end up using that down the road.
Yeah. And I actually, because when you start doing zaps, you say, oh, I want to, I want this zap to go do whatever for an owner, right? Well, it needs to know, well, what owner, dummy? I need to know which one. Well, it needs in this case, the contact ID. That's how it can go and find it. So if you're doing like a lookup, you can look up by the ID. So that's why you'd want to put there. I was actually thinking about that. Somebody gives me a one, I'm gonna build a zap that's gonna send my cousin Vinny over and go get that one upgraded to like a 60 or a 70 and make sure that that owner, knows what's up. Anyway, so that's one way of using filters. Retently, again, NPS scores and a quick way to just save time. And now I know every single time an owner is onboarded, they're going to be added to Retently. I don't have to worry to remember to do it, or I don't even have to add a step in the onboarding. It says, hey, add owner to Retently. Like if you can automate it, why pay somebody to do it? Right now, just boom, it's done. One less thing. So
Yeah, a
let's
bit of a personal
go ahead.
preference there. I like to have a checkbox in LeadSimple for anything that's automated. It'll just say like check this box to add owner to Retently, just so the person running it kind of knows what's happening in the background. But I could see the argument for just making it part of the stage change so it happens automatically, sort of without any work at all needed. So
Yeah, and we've done some of our stuff in Lead Simple, certain tasks. I'll put in parentheses like triggers a zap. That way our team knows that this
yeah.
particular one is going to cause some magic to happen. So buckle your seatbelts. All right, we've done the same thing for vendors. Adding them to Retently every time we onboard a vendor. So let's talk scorecards. I know everybody wants to talk KPIs, and half of us don't even know what our KPIs are, but we like bragging. Oh yeah, I got a 2.3. Okay, whoop-de-doo. So we use 90.io. I think we do a pretty decent job of doing EOS in our company. I definitely wouldn't put us on the master list, but we're decent. And so we wanted to find a software that would help us do even better with 90.io. I'm fully aware you can use Google spreadsheets and you can do all kinds of stuff, but I was looking for something that was built specific, and 90.io does a great job. There's some areas that could use some improvement, but overall, I like it. It's helping us. But one thing that we're struggling with is getting our data into the scorecard. Some things were, manual, others like, oh yeah, I forgot to do it. I'm like, it's so simple. Just look it up and punch it in the scorecard. So I looked at how can we start using Zapier, because there is an integration with 90.io, to get some of our data into that scorecard. I first want to preference and say it is limited in what you can do, but at least you can do some stuff. So what we're doing here, and again, you'll see the filter, is every time we get a new property management lead, a housing provider lead, we are going to increase our scorecard count by one in one specific metric. So we have, when a lead's created in LeadSimple, using our filter, We only want it when it is entering, or the pipeline name is prospective management clients. We're then going to go to 90.io and tell we want to increase or decrease a measurable score. And it says, okay, great. Which company? Because I have a couple different companies in the software. I tell it what team scorecard we're going to update. I tell it which measurable, and that we're going to increase it by 1. So for us, we're not necessarily looking at how many doors does this owner bring in, just a new owner, new lead. So we increase it by 1. So now, at least that one item on the scorecard, every time we get a new lead, regardless of what stage they're in, when they're first put in, it's going to increase that measurable by 1, and it's automated it.
So everyone go to Wolf's company website and fill out the form for a new owner lead to really
Yeah,
mess up
meet
his
my goal.
scorecard.
Yeah. So this is really simple. It's not for those, like, it's literally only 3 things. That's it. It's really simple. Finding small wins that you can use to, that pay dividends down the road. So now, as we do more of these, we have a couple of them. Here we're looking at Google reviews. In this particular case, we only want ones that are below a 3-star because we have a specific category for that. Because if you give us 3 stars or lower, we're going to call that a complaint. And so we have a different measurable on our scorecard about complaints. And then we have one for 4 stars and above. And I'm sorry, below 4-star. This is a different one. In this particular case, we're going to create an issue. If you're familiar with EOS and your issues list, this is another thing that you can do with Zapier is find different triggers that are important for you. And now I can automatically add it to our issues list. So here, we're putting it, the title of the issue is below 4-star review by person's name. The description is we're actually putting the review. So now when that comes up, we go through our issues list, we can look at it, and if anybody has context, whatever, we can have the conversation.
Yeah, this is I love this one, Wolf, because this can be used by anyone in a small business, right? Anyone who has a Google business profile really should set up a Zap like this. Now, maybe it doesn't create an issue in 90.io specifically, but it should do something, right? When you get a score below a 4.0, whether that feeds into a Slack channel, whether that fires off an email, whether that kicks off a process, whatever your system is in your company, and if you don't have one, you should make one for dealing with negative online reviews. This is a perfect way to kick that off without having to rely on somebody seeing the email. And the other thing, I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it: if you own a business, you should not be receiving the Google reviews in your inbox. There is nothing more destructive and distracting to a business owner than receiving a 1-star Google review at 9 a.m. It wrecks your whole day. And God forbid you're on vacation and you get an email like that. So just turn it off. If you own a business, add the other folks on your team to your Google business account, have them turn on notifications for Google reviews and turn it off for you, and set up a system or a process for handling negative Google reviews. Because guess what? You're going to get them. Unfortunately, if you own a business, you're going to get low Google reviews. So you might as well create a system for handling them. And this is a great way to kick off that system.
Yeah, and you could, I mean, there's a lot of things that you could do with this. I helped a team that we're funneling into a Google spreadsheet. So it just creates a new row, and they want it for every review. So now they have a log and they can do whatever they want with it. So there's no shortage of ideas. But what is your process? A Google review comes in. What is your process? Did you even know you got a new Google review, right? Like that'd be the first question. And then going from there, what are you going to do with it? So for us, like I said, we're using 90.io, trying to improve things. So we've built a couple different Zaps on areas that we're trying to improve and measure, and it's going right into our scorecard. So now when we open up our scorecard in our weekly meeting, some of that information is automatically right there. I'm now working on some other ways because some of the other pieces of data we want to collect are, or not collect, but to put in the scorecard a little bit more complex. But want to show just simply how we can do this. So we're using a filter. again, you've noticed almost every Zap so far, a filter has been a main component. So learning how to build filters and understanding how they work in Zapier is mission critical, really super important. I saw one comment as you're talking, Peter, that somebody burned through their whole month's budget of Zaps in like an hour or a day
Yeah,
or so because they didn't have a filter, and so it was just firing on every single one. Guilty
yep,
in there, it's happened. So know
yeah.
how to.
It's a rite of passage, I think. Yep,
Yeah. And if I did one when I was learning how to do loops, and I basically created some type of infinity loop, and all of a sudden my Zapier account was locked down because they thought it was spamming, or I doubt it was crashing their servers. But it's important to know how these pieces work. So this is a couple of examples of how we're using filters and how we're using this for like real life purposes, not just something cool that like, yeah, I built a Zap that built me a BLT, and then it sent a Slack message with a picture of me eating my BLT. Like we are reducing potentially FTE here, but we're just making life easier for everybody. All right, the next we're on a roll here. We're just cranking through these. The next kind of it's two zaps, but tidbit to share is about using the schedule component. So what is schedule? Well, wouldn't it be cool to have a zap that runs every Tuesday at 9 a.m. or every second day of the month, go ahead and do this. You can do that by using schedule. You can tell Zapier to automatically and go run some tasks on your behalf at a set schedule. So I am a really firm believer of companies, any company, quite honestly, but having in the PM world a weekly process and a monthly process. That is your cadence as a company. As unfortunate or as fortunate as it is, we kind of live in Groundhog's Day, right? We run on this 30-day cycle that we do certain things that's on certain days and it just kind of repeats. And in between, little fires and tenant issues creep up. But for the most part, that 30-day cycle is our cadence as a PM company. And we're so focused on, I need my move in process or I need a new owner process onboarding. Well, what about all that behind the scenes stuff taking place? That is a process. And so in our company, we have a weekly and we have a monthly process. And I want those to launch on specific days, whether it's the weekly one starts on Monday or the monthly one is on the first day of the month and ends on the last day of the month. I don't know, Peter, it looked like you were getting ready to say something.
yeah. So yeah, I really like this, Wolf. I've picked up a lot of this from you, the importance of the weekly and monthly cadence and how that's kind of the heartbeat of property management. And a lot of this has to do with accounting, right? We've got a lot of accounting activities that are tied into a monthly cadence. Rent collection, obvious, that's the big one. But we've also got things like payments to vendors, we've got disbursements, we've got owner statements, we've got bank account reconciliations. So there's really a lot of accounting tasks that need to be on a monthly cadence such that they're going to get triggered automatically, not by you remembering, oh yeah, we're supposed to close out the books by the 10th of every month so that we can do disbursements without making a mistake. So it's really important that you set that up, and it's actually surprisingly difficult to use. Just a lot of workflow softwares don't let you set up weekly and monthly cadences or weekly and monthly processes or checklists that kick off automatically like that. And with it being so central to what we do in property management, this is a great way to handle that. I'd also like to add, we have an annual cadence,
Mm-hmm.
especially in here in Ohio. Well, I'm not in Ohio right now, but where my business is in Ohio, we have cold weather things that we need to do, and we have hot weather things that we need to do. And there's also a lot of annual cadence items as it relates to the federal government. So getting your 1099s out by the end of January and getting your annual owner statements out, and getting your owners to update their addresses before you do the 1099s. Like there's a lot of things that are on an annual cadence. So you could use that as well.
Yeah, so to give, I'll share the back end of what ours looks like. Like again, we use LeadSimple, but you could probably do this in you could use this, you could build a checklist in Asana, whatever. So this is our monthly cadence, and we have kind of all those you mentioned, like getting the trust account statements, all that stuff is on set days that we need, and then updating certain items in the scorecard, just all of that we just put in there. Happens, every month. Get it in there. We have the instructions on how to do each one, so it makes it really easy. On somebody changes, boom, put them in there. They watch the video. They now know how to do it. Well, I would have to remember when to start that, whether it's the weekly or the monthly. Or I'd have to be around a computer. What if I want to go skiing in Maine, Peter? What am I going to do, right? I need a way to make sure this is going to happen so I can still enjoy my life.
Yeah, now there's a lot of hacks that you can use or that I've used or various people use as a way to handle this. One of them is like calendar stuff, right?
Mhm.
So if your calendar is filled up with all of this weekly and monthly recurring reminders and tasks that aren't actually meetings, they're just on your calendar as a way to remind yourself. So those things can all be pulled off and built into these weekly and monthly cadences. Another one that I'm even guilty of myself is there's certain things where like I'll get an email to do something and then I'll just snooze it for 30 days to remind myself to do it the following month around that time. So those are
Yeah,
examples of things. If you're wondering like, well, what would I even put on a monthly cadence or a weekly cadence checklist? Those are some examples.
right. No, very, very true. So we have, um, so we tell it we're going to use schedule by Zapier, and we're telling it, why is it blank right now? That's interesting. Anyways, pick what day of the week we want this to run on and what time of day. You can see this is super, super easy. Let's pick 9 a.m. Click continue, and it's like, yep, no problem, I can do it. What do you want me to do? So I say, okay, great, this is what you need to do. The first one is this formatter. I won't get too much into this because I want the focus to be on schedule, but formatter is another app inside of Zapier where you can reformat data, you can pull out data, you can just do some amazing things. The dates inside and times inside of that Zapier spits out is a little bit different format than what LeadSimple needs. So I use Formatter to make that conversion. And I also add, in this particular case, 4 days to it. Right. So I'm going to launch this on Monday. I need to know what is the date 4 days from now, because when I create the process inside of LeadSimple, or run the instance of the process, I need to set a due date, which I want to be Friday at 5 p.m. So by
Nice.
pulling this Monday and using the formatter, I now get the due date of Friday and I tell it at 5 p.m. So now this process is complete. It's got a due date, everything goes, and you're set. And so
Does
that's
that date time formatter let you do something like 4 business days? Is that a thing? Business days?
It is, but it looks like this. And for those that are signed up, you're going to get a copy of this code, which I freely stole because I don't know how to code. But monthly, you do need a little bit of coding here because every month doesn't always end at day 30. Some are at 28. This year we had a 29, some are at 31. So honestly, I can't tell you really honestly what this JavaScript means. I know that what it's doing is figuring out the last day of the month, and it's looking up, well, what month is it? There's probably people on this call that can do JavaScript. Bless you. That's great. I can't. So in this particular case, this is to launch our monthly process. Again, using a schedule. And we're telling it, the first day of the month. Well, what if the first day of the month is a Saturday? I have a path for that. If it's a Sunday, I have a path for that. If it's not Saturday or Sunday, it's just a normal weekday, here's the path for that. And the reason why is because I don't want my team to all of a sudden get notified on Saturday, hey, you got some new tasks to do. No, I want it to start on Monday. So I can use Saturday, I can then delay it so that it then creates the process on Monday morning. And so
What
the delay
about
for Saturday
holidays?
and Sunday are different. I haven't quite figured out holidays yet. That's a
All
little
right,
different.
that's weak sauce.
Yeah, this is a level one, but using the delay. So Saturday, I need to delay it for 2 days so that then this can run on Monday. And what's cool about it is if you've ever run a process in LeadSimple or whatever, you can name it. I'm sure it's the same for Process Street, Asana, wherever. Well, I'm going to use the fields from previous dates to name it the actual day. So you can see here, if I go to our weekly process, or this is our monthly one, they're all named. That was done automatically. Same with the weekly ones. They're named week of, right? So that's all from using Zapier, I can pull the fields to then rename that process to something pretty and set the due date. Last day of the month at 9 a.m. is when it's due.
Wolf, this is a lot of work to just instead you could just tell your team, hey, if stuff comes on a weekend, just ignore it.
Yeah, I could, but I didn't want to do that. So, and I want to be consistent. What if I, forget or get a new team member? So,
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
definitely consistent. So we've done some filters. We've done, some work looking at schedule. Those are two tools that can really help you with any type of Zap. If you wanted to create a Zap that on the third day of every month, I need you to send this email. I then need you to create a Google Calendar invite, and then I need you to create a Zoom link. You would start off with the schedule component inside of Zapier. All right, so
So
use
so do
any
we want to, so it's been 30 minutes,
yeah.
and we did get 3 zaps in. Do we want to keep going and share some bonus content, or do we want to see if there's any Q&A? Um,
I think we
let's
could do both.
Okay.
I'll let you drive the Q&A. I got too many windows open here.
All right. So we had one question. Do you have someone on staff that knows JavaScript, or did you hire out?
I Googled out. So wait, let me re-answer that. For this particular case, this was before we hired somebody, but I just like I can't be the only one that wanted to know what is the last day of the month for a Zap, right? So I Googled it. Now, forget Google. You can just use Chat GPT. Like it's amazing what you can troubleshoot and solve in Chat GPT, and not just for Zapier, but like, hey, I got two Google spreadsheets and I want them to talk to each other. I want this column to be added over here. Like, and so you put it in the Chat GPT and it says, yeah, this is how you do it. Here's a formula, just copy and paste.
Yeah.
So troubleshooting with AI is amazing.
Yeah, and you reminded me, Wolf, we can't go any farther without talking about the AI function built into Zapier. So these days, so it used to be whenever I thought of an idea for a Zap, I would have to do a whole bunch of Googling and a whole bunch of research, and I would have to figure out, like, can I do this with this, or what do I need to use the scheduler? And so these days, Zapier built an AI tool so that when you go to create a new Zap, you can literally just type in words what you want it to do, and it will build the Zap for you. So you could click create new Zap, and you could say something like, I want a Slack message to appear in the general channel anytime we get a Google score 5 or 4 with the text of the Google review, something like that. And it will actually create the Zap for you. Now, of course, you're still going to have to link up your accounts if you haven't already done that, and select some of the details and fill in like the text of the message. But it gets you like 60 to 70% of the way there. And it kind of does the hard part for you. And I love using it.
Yeah. So I start when that first came out, it was to me, it's like I can just do this faster. But now that they're calling it Copilot, and you can see it right here, I tried to type exactly what you were saying. It says, yeah, how here's the outline. And so now all I have to do is click these add buttons and it'll add it into this app right here. So it works pretty well. So I would say between Zapier's AI or ChatGPT, you can do a lot. Honestly, I'm gonna publicly say you don't need Wolf, right? Like it's amazing what you can do. It's really exciting. I think it's very liberating for people because you're not dependent upon um, and no offense to the consultants out there that are, you know, earning a living by doing this for people, but you can start to do stuff on your own, be a little bit more independent and self-reliant, and just kind of explore and create. So, but going back to the original question, we do now have a remote team member who does know JavaScript, but that's not her role. She just happens to know it. She does other work for us, but she does have coding experience.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next question?
We don't have any more questions right now. If you got questions, pop them in, and we can roll on for now.
All right, well, let's look at something on the more advanced side using AI. So this is one of my current projects is right now I have a remote team member that helps with my personal email, keeping it organized and all that great stuff. And well, I wonder what AI could do with that. So what I'm doing here is taking the emails that come in from the previous day, formatting them, putting them through OpenAI, not necessarily ChatGPT, because there's two different, there's OpenAI and ChatGPT apps inside of Zapier. Then using the digest by Zapier, which is another cool one. Probably could do a whole session just on that. And then putting a Slack message. I don't quite have it perfected yet. The results are a little funky, but what it's going to do is basically I'm going to log into my Slack, and I'm going to have I'm using a test channel right now. I'm going to have one Slack message that's going to have every single an AI 3 sentence summary, because that's the what I told it to do. 3 sentences max, concise, of the email. And I'm just going to have one message that's going to say, you received, 8 million emails today, and here's a digest of each single one, and it will have a link so that if I happen to want to read it, I can just click it and then I can read that email. Otherwise, just continue on.
So wait, let me get this straight. So in a Slack channel, every day, at the end of the day or the beginning of the day or something, you're getting one big long message with a 3 sentence summary of every email you got in the last 24 hours.
That's what I'm working towards. Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's really interesting. And is the idea here that you're not wanting to go into your email as much? You're trying to stay out of your email?
Yeah. I've
Got it.
identified that there's a couple areas, time sucks for me, that I start having squirrel moments. Email's one, and social media is another one, but email is one. And so I'm trying to make that easier. But I'm also looking at how could I use this for some of our team members, right? How can I create a summary of maybe, because I could tell it by using a filter, only emails that are with this tag. So now we could create a digest of any emails that came in from owners, only owners, or only, a digest of emails that were only sent from one of our team members. So maybe I have a new team member and they're not in the hand holding phase still yet, but they're still probationary. And I just want to get a summary of their emails without really going too far into it. I can see how they're doing. I really don't have a specific use case on why I wanted this. I just wanted it. So yeah,
Okay, that's really that's really interesting.
yeah,
Keep me updated on this, Wolf. This is to stay out of my inbox.
yeah, yep. That's it. But just so
So
you
like
know,
right
people
now,
want,
I'm in Maine.
yeah,
I haven't checked. Sorry, my internet's a little slow, so I'm lagging. But I'm in Maine. I haven't checked my email in like 5 days, and so there could be important stuff in there that is kind of time sensitive. But I'm not willing to risk damaging my vacation by looking at every single email that could have come in, because there could be stuff in there that would be very distracting for me or very like even potentially upsetting. Like if we're dealing with a client issue or a lawsuit or who knows what could be in my inbox, really. I want to deal with that when I'm at work, not when I'm on vacation. But there might be a few emails in there that I would want to deal with right away, like if somebody is trying to do something with a sponsorship for my newsletter tomorrow or something like that. So I like this.
yeah. Where my hiccup, I think I have it resolved, and I'll wait till tomorrow morning to find out. Um, you can kind of see the journey of this app as I've been experimenting, but you can kind of see the I'm 99% sure I have the AI part doing the summary correct now. So that will be here. And then if I wanted to, all I have to do is click this email or click this link and it will go right to that email. So right now I see all the emails that came in. Oh, that one looks interesting. Let me click it. But I didn't actually have to go to my Gmail. I didn't have to worry about the distractions. I'm in one place. For our company, we're trying to keep all of our communications inside of Slack for internal communications. And so this will allow me to not have one more thing open, one more place that I'm getting notifications. Yes, I know I can turn notifications off, and I do, but just trying to consolidate what tools I'm using so that ultimately at the end of the day, we use AppFolio as our company. We use LeadSimple. We use all these tools. But what I would love to have is for my team, they just have Slack open and they have LeadSimple open, and that's it. And so that's kind of what we're working towards
I love
to
that.
reduce the
I really like
distractions.
that as an ideal.
Yeah. All right, let's go. Let's see if we have any other questions, comments. Yeah. So, yeah, people are. It looks like I don't know if Deb is making fun of me because I made fun of her last, or if she has a question about Bill's a perfect 10. So yeah, these are just different channels that we have. Some of them have automations to them. Some of them don't. Just depends. The one that say Bill's, basically, if you don't have a Fujitsu scan snap, like you're missing out in life. But I have different automations where certain types of paper come in. I don't scan them, somebody else does, but they get scanned. They go to a specific folder, and then magic will happen, and some of those items go right here to Slack for their work. But that's what those are for.
That's cool.
Yeah,
We have a question from Christian Dial. Are you training the GPT within OpenAI to look for levels of importance on the emails and allow it to filter out anything?
that's the next step. So once I get this digest summary completed, which I'm pretty sure tomorrow morning at 8, it's going to be very exciting. That's my next step is to train it for what do they call it? Sentiment. And once you do that, then I could say only send me the ones where they sound mad. That's what I'm working towards. But yeah, that is the goal is give me a digest of all the mad people and so I can delete their
No, that's the
emails.
opposite of what you want, Wolf.
Well, yeah, get all the mad ones and just say, yep, delete. See you
Yeah.
later. No.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is the goal is to start getting into the sentiment. And for those that are wondering, like, what are we talking about? AI has the ability to read text and do more than just give you a summary. It can tell you tone of voice. You know, is a person mad? Are they upset? Are they likely to buy? Are they unlikely to buy? Like, there's all kinds of cool things that can go on. So, trying to train it to then do that for email.
Yeah, I think one thing that would be really interesting, Wolf, as you're working through some of this email parsing and sentiment analysis, I would love an early warning system for clients who are about to churn.
Mm,
And I feel like that should be possible given given their email correspondence frequency and tone, and given like the history of that particular client's interactions with your company. So if you're especially if you're using like a single inbox or a shared inbox system where your client emails are coming to a shared inbox rather than a specific person on your team or multiple people on your team, I feel like it should be possible to set up some AI to watch for clients who previously were communicating frequently, but now they're not, or previously were not communicating frequently, but now they are, or the sentiment has gone down quickly, or there's got to be something there where we can start to get a heads up for a client who is unhappy, even if they may not necessarily come out and say that directly.
yeah, and I think people have sat through this and wondering like, I don't need Zapier. Like, what's the point of it? You just, without knowing it, brought up the perfect reason because yeah, I can monitor. Eventually, I'm gonna get my email where it's telling me who's mad at Wolf. But wouldn't it be cool to find out who's mad at Wolf, and then also has been having a lot of work orders recently. Because you want to talk about somebody who's likely to churn, that's somebody who's got a lot of work orders on their properties and their emails, they're rather pissed. Like that is like red flags, lights. They're probably
Yep.
gonna bail. Well, I'll need Zapier to make that
Yep.
happen because I will need my email information and I'll need my maintenance information. So, like, if you're using Property Meld or whatever, I need those two to talk. And right now, that's not native, right? So, if I can pull it out, and so Zapier, I'm just thinking out loud here, maybe I have a Airtable or Google spreadsheet that every time AI detects an owner is mad through their email, adds it, and then compares it to property mail data. I don't know. I'm just could do that now. Hey, Wolf, here are three owners that maybe you as the owner you should reach out to because we're feeling that they're on the bubble. So I don't know, Ray,
Yep.
Jordan, all the people out there. This is as property managers. This is what we need. Is we need to know who's really mad and who's really sad and who's really happy. And your different ecosystems hold parts of that data, but we need it mashed together so that we can be told exactly as the owner of a company, you need to reach out to this owner right now because they scored a 6 on the you suck score because of our three systems.
Yeah, I'll add one last thing to that, and we should probably wrap this up. So the other thing that I think is highly correlated with owner churn is low disbursements or
Mm,
inconsistent disbursements. And that data is, of course, in our property accounting software. But I believe LeadSimple, not sure. Actually, I guess I don't really know if LeadSimple has access to any of that data or not. But regardless, Buildium, Appfolio, Propertyware, it would be great if we had access to some of that through the APIs and through the integrations so that we could set up a system that would be monitoring and letting us know, hey, this owner's disbursements have been low for the last 2 months in a row, and you may want to reach out to them.
yeah, I think and these are the types of use cases for AI. See jokes about, I hope this email finds you well. Yeah. If you are literally using verbatim the responses from ChatGPT without taking that out, I'll tell you right now, I delete your email. I don't care who you are. I will delete it if it starts with, I hope this email finds you well. Like, don't be so obvious. I know that that term's been around before AI, but now it's kind of known that that person used ChatGPT. Um, that's fine and dandy, but these are real use cases for AI right here, helping us get meaning from our data. One, because the data is in lots of different systems and it's not on this clear cut dashboard. But two, we may not have time or we may not have the knowledge to know that these two data pieces have a strong correlation for churn. So when you're looking at AI tools, yeah, you can get some cool titles on, captions on videos. There's lots of cool stuff that AI can do, but we need and look for AI tools that actually can help you make decisions. Informed decision making is, I think, one of the best use cases for AI because for the longest time, only the big companies that had great business intelligence tools could get that. AI is going to be the liberator. It's going to allow us to have the freedom to know what our data is telling us, to actually get meaning from the data and make a decision from it. So I'll give you final words, Peter.
I think that's powerful. I think you summarized it really well there at the end, and I think we should end it there. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today. We had an unbelievable response to this, and we're going to keep going.
Yep. Thank you, and we'll see you next month.